Okay, well, we'll get started here. Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good morning. My name is John Von Paris, and I'm the chairman of the MDTA Finance Committee. I hereby call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order at 9 a.m. In accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is being conducted via video conference and is being live streamed on the MDTA Finance Committee webpage. All members will have their video active during the entirety of the meeting. To minimize background noise during the call, I would ask that everyone on the line to please mute your phones except when speaking. I ask that those who are presenting or answering a question to please turn your video and audio on when speaking. When you are done, please turn your video off and put your audio on mute. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, and no media who have pre-registered to comment at this morning's meeting. This time we will begin with agenda item number 1, the approval of the minutes from August 10, 2023. Everyone have a copy of the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved. Second.
Okay.
Thanks.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The minutes are approved. We'll move on to item number 2, contract number MT 00210823, sludge debris removal for Fort McHenry Tunnel. And Tony is here to present. Good morning, Tony.
I'm sorry. Good morning. How are you?
Good.
I'm here. My name is Tony Kashera, and I am the contract manager for contract MT 00210823, sludge debris removal for Fort McHenry's Tunnel. This project is to provide services for the removal and debris of liquids, sludge, and debris from 4 wet wells located at the Fort McHenry Tunnel, Baltimore City, Maryland, to reduce the amount of sediment into the bay to avert flooding. This contract includes all labor, transportation, and services necessary for adequate performance in accordance with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations pertaining to worker protection and protection of the environment. There are no state allowances. There are no state allowance amounts within this contract. The ad and bid dates, the advertised date was June 1st, 2023. Bids were received on June 25th, 2023. 5 bids were received. The low bid or best offer was submitted by the Julian Companies Incorporated in the amount of $548,475. We are recommending award of this contract to the Julian Companies Incorporated. There were no bid protests or rejections. The MBE goals, sub-goals, SBR, and VSBE goals are at 0% due to the single element of work. The Julian Companies is new to MDTA. The contract duration is 3 years with 1 2-year renewal option. The notice to proceed is anticipated to take place on October 5th, 2023. And this contract is necessary for the proper removal and disposal of liquids, sludge, and debris from MDTA's Fort McHenry Tunnel to keep the tunnel operational in accordance with the terms, conditions, and specifications identified within this contract. We are seeking the recommended approval to present MT 0021 0823 sludge debris removal for MDTA's Fort McHenry Tunnel to the full MDTA board for award of the subject contract.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Are there any questions from any members?
I have a question.
Member Rose?
Member Von Paris. Yeah, Tony, thank you for that summary of this contract. I just want to make sure that that Julian companies, they understand the scope of this, because I'm glad to see one other vendor was closer to their bid, but the others are pretty dramatically higher. So since this is the first time they're working with us, of course, performance is a concern. Not necessarily that they won't perform, but just make sure that they understand it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jeff Davis, do you mind addressing the question regarding the procurement and the discussions with the vendors, that they understand the scope of the contract, considering the significant lower bid from the recommended vendor?
Sure. So, good morning for the record. My name is Jeff Davis with the Division of Procurement. Let me put my glasses on. I enjoyed the glass discussion earlier while I had my prescription sunglasses on. So this was an invitation for bid. So there wasn't a scope review per se with the bidders, but what we do ask for is minimum qualifications when they do propose a bid. And this firm has, had met the minimum qualifications for this contract. There is, the possibility, like you say, of, performance issues from being a new vendor. That is managed by the contract manager. And then if there's any performance issues early in the contract, we will meet and adjust. If there ends up being some sort of insurmountable issue, we do have options to terminate for convenience or default and move on to another bidder. But we have no reason to suspect that this vendor cannot complete the work as bid.
Okay. Member Ardinger?
On that same vein, that was my question too. With the Julian company, I know that they're new to us, but have they had experience in this area with other county, other states, or any other experience that that comes similar to this?
Unfortunately, I do not have that information. I can get that for you in a moment. Tony may have it if she has reviewed the bids at all. If not, I will. I'll get the information for you very, very quickly. So bear with me.
Thank you.
Member Carroll?
I think Natalie provided a revised version of the meeting notes for today on Monday. I just want to confirm the contract amount. Seems like there's an extra digit in the memo, but I want to confirm what you guys are seeing on your end as the contract amount. On my paperwork, it's 1.028,2444 and 60 cents. So there's an extra digit there. Are you guys not seeing that on your paperwork? Okay, then I must, these glasses are working. I'm fairly certain, but I can forward it. Just maybe it's my copy.
Member Carroll, I'm trying to look. I'm sorry, my camera on. Sorry. I'm trying to look for what you're looking at. That you're right. There was a revision.
Right.
I'm just trying very quickly to verify what the revision was. I thought the revision was a name, but let me double check. If
Deb, I
just
believe
have a
the-
second.
Member Carroll,
believe-
this is Natalie. The second revision was the name Tri-State Solutions was spelled incorrectly
Right.
on the memo. Was the second revision. The first revision that was sent out was the background information for agenda item number 3. I'm looking at the memo for agenda item number 2, and I'm trying to find what it is you're seeing.
Okay, so I'm apologizing. I'm looking at the minutes. Item 1, my apologies. There should have been a revision in that note. If you look at item 1, paragraph 2, for the contract ending in 0040. I didn't mean to throw this team off with that, but I thought I was looking at item 2. It's item 1, actually.
Okay, I do see what you're looking at. Cheryl, can you make revisions and send an updated minutes out for their approval and for us to get signatures on?
Yes, I will. Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. Don't mind confusing you even more.
Okay, yes.
Member Artinger? Do you have anything?
That was
More
my
s-
mistake. I forgot to take my hand down. So just sorry.
Yeah, I do it all the time. Sorry, did it yesterday, whatever. Some good questions here.
I wanted to
and-
circle back, if I could, I'm sorry, to Member Artinger. The person who could answer that question for me is on leave. So if you want that answered prior to making a decision, please forgive me. If you can give me 5 minutes to get to my desk, I will have that information for you. We can come back to this item. Thank you.
Would you feel comfortable with that, Member Artinger?
I'll leave that up to my other fellow members. I mean, I'm fine. I think we've got some safety nets based on the response to Member Rosen, but I'll leave that in your hands if you want to table that or move forward.
We could, if it's going to take 5 minutes, we can come back to it, if that's okay, before we vote on it. Okay, so we will note. Now, just a technical question with the minutes. With Dante, you were referring to the minutes, is that correct?
Yeah, I guess I would have to make a motion to approve revised minutes.
Yes. So we will, I guess, rescind what we've done here with the approval. So if we can, let's just go to that agenda item number 1. And is there a motion?
Well, I guess we'd also need to know which digit needs to be removed before we.
Okay. Yeah, that would be, well, we will, let's see when we can get that information, maybe right now. So,
Sure, yes. Good morning.
Chantel.
Our apologies for the error. So it should be $1,028,244.60. So it has an
Thank you.
extra 4.
Thank you, Chantel.
Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
So I move to approve the revised minutes reflecting the change in contract amount for approval item contract number J01P36000040.
Okay, thank you, Member Carroll. Is there a second?
Member Artinger, I'll second.
Thank you, Member Artinger. Is there any further discussion? Okay. If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, members, for the good questions on that, and Member Carroll for picking that up. Thank you. It's glasses, right? Okay. We will skip item number from taking any action on item number 2 until we hear back, and then we will move on to item number 3, and it's contract number MT002100859 janitorial services, and Tina is here, and this is for the JFK and Thomas Hatem Bridge.
Yes, sir. At the 10 buildings there. Yes.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
morning. All right. Good morning. My name is Tina Dorn, and I am the contract manager for MT 002100859. Name contract janitorial services for John F. Kennedy Memorial Highway and Thomas J. Hayden Memorial Bridge facilities. The purpose of this project is to retain janitorial services from a community service provider, preferred provider, located at MDTA, again, JFK Memorial Highway and Thomas J. Hayden Memorial Bridge facilities, which includes 10 buildings. Would you like for me to list the buildings, or 10 buildings are okay?
I think, um, and members, do you have any preference here? Are we good with,
All right.
we'll just go with what you've said. So I don't need to list every building.
Thank you. The provider shall furnish all supervision, labor, material, supplies, equipment, and related incidentals for the provision of professional janitorial services in accordance with the terms, conditions, and specification identified herein. The fund cert amount or budget amount is not to exceed $2,160,889. As of July 27th, 2023, the Pricing and Selection Committee approved the rates for these services. We are recommending award of this contract to Lyle's Cleaning Services, LLC. There are no MBE goals, sub-goals, or SBR designation because the contract is a single element of work. There is prior work history with MDTA and it was successful. The current janitorial services contract expires, October the 31st, 2023, and notice to proceed is anticipated on November the 1st, 2023. The contract is necessary for professional janitorial services at JFK and the Hayden Bridge facilities, 10 buildings, to keep the facilities sanitary and aesthetically operational in accordance with the terms, conditions, and specification identified in the contract. And we are seeking recommended approval to present MT 002510859 to the full MDTA board for award of the project subject contract. The
Okay.
end.
Tina, thank you very much for a thorough presentation. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep. Is there a motion to approve this item, advance it to the full board for consideration?
So move.
Thank you, Member Rosen. Is there a second?
Member Artinger, I'll second.
Thank you, Member Artinger. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
We will move on to agenda item number 4, update budget comparison, review of actual versus projected fiscal year 2023 operating budget spending. Jeffrey Brown is here. Good morning, Jeffrey. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, members. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Brown. I'm Budget Director of the MDTA, and I'm here today to provide an update, final review for fiscal year 2023 budget versus actual performance. As of June 30th, 96% of the budget was spent compared to a target of 100%. Only 2 objects, 6 and 13, were above budget. Object 6 was at 110% due to delayed receipt of fiscal year 2022 utility invoices that were paid in fiscal 23, and object 13, which was at 148%, primarily due to insurance premium increases due to inflation. All other objects were at or below the targeted spending level. Some of the underperformance, but some of the underspend drivers in some of the objects were due to personnel vacancies and delayed vehicle purchases. And those will be shifting the vehicle purchases to fiscal year 2024. Moving to additional detail, salary wages, objects 1 and 2 are at targeted spending levels with a 96% spend rate. Communications is at 83% due to 2 reasons. Telecommunications, object 303, which is at 56%, and that's primarily attributable to employee vacancies. And the state paid telecommunications object 305. This was below budget as that's primarily the state radio system invoice, and that was budgeted at 1.7 million, but came in at 1.6 million. Object 4, travel was at a 73% spend rate, and we've seen that spending has not rebounded to pre-COVID levels. Fuel and objects, object 6, as mentioned above, was above budget due to the fiscal 2022 payments. Object 7 was below budget at 75% spend. This is due to supply chain delays in vehicle purchases. These costs will transfer to fiscal 2024. Contractual service, object 8, is within budget at a 99% spend rate. The key variances within this object are advertising at a 65% spend rate, and that's due to reduced activity and lower than anticipated contractual renewal costs. Equipment rental is at an 86% spend due to reduced printing requests. Building repairs and maintenance, 812, is at a 69% spend. This is due to reduced costs for the dehumidification of the Bay Bridge and the transfer of sludge removal activity to fiscal 24. Education and training is below budget at 55% spend rate, primarily due to reduced career development program activity. Management studies is at a 34% spend rate, and this is just reduced activities, and we anticipate many, if not all, these activities will shift to fiscal 24. Fiscal services was at an 87%, and this is primarily due to lower credit card fees. And the one object that was main object over budget was Easy Pass Service Center costs at 118% spend. The costs associated with the customer assistance plan and an understated fiscal 2022 accrual primarily account for this increase. Moving on to object 9, which was at a 72% spend rate. The drivers of this was roadway maintenance materials at a 66% spend rate. This was due to the increase in construction activity, which results in less need for maintenance and due to personnel vacancies. Salt was low at 5% due to the mild winter, and then both uniforms and ammunition were well below the spend rate, and these were due to shipping delays in the supply chain. Replacement equipment at Object 10 was at a 76% spend. This was other replacement equipment is the main driver of this, and this is due to the deferred police gym equipment that will probably occur in fiscal 24 as a result. Additional equipment, Object 11, is at a 40% spend, primarily due to the additional maintenance and building equipment. There's a heavy truck lift delivery at the Nice Middleton Bridge that will shift to the next fiscal year, and this was due to an auto shop renovation that was occurring. And finally, as mentioned above, Object 13 is over budget at 148% spend. This is due to the inflation found in the bridges and tunnels liability insurance premium. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Good morning, Jeff. As to the insurance, I think we talked about this last time. I think that we saw this premium increase. And if I remember correctly, there was some discussion about possibly shopping it or finding a way to bring that down. Am I remembering that correctly, or?
Yeah, I believe that conversation did occur. I think it was with Deb and Will Pines at the time. I think Deb would have to probably give an update of where that stands. I'm not sure, where we stand in the review of that at this point.
Deb, are you there?
Good afternoon, Chantel Green, Director of Finance. For the record, we are still currently reviewing that, Member Ardinger. We definitely hope by the end of the year to be able to provide an update to the committee.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
It's a good question. I also had a question regarding that. Are we part of the, I guess there's some I guess self-insurance that we have. We're self-insured to a degree on certain things, and then do we ride along on the state negotiated insurance contracts where they negotiate with brokers, or do we because I don't recall us negotiating or buying insurance.
We have a combination of the policies. there's a piece that is self-insured, there's a piece that falls under statewide contracts, and then we have specific insurance contracts just for ourselves. But due to the size and volume of our infrastructure, the state has a broker that works on our behalf. And it's a composite of insurance companies that we utilize. And so when this budget, when the budget was even presented, and in the other quarterlies, we had talked about that our premiums have been so much higher for two reasons. One was because of just the national losses that have happened. When there's losses, everybody, that gets rolled into everybody else's premiums. And then the other piece of it is just the value of the assets, as the cost to replace or repair has gone up significantly. So those two things combined is affecting our insurance prices.
So inflation is part of it, and then generally losses throughout the industry, the insurance industry for this type of premium. Okay.
Yes. And we've been working, we've had meetings with the treasurers, we've had meetings with one of the primary insurance companies, talking about strategies and what's important to us. And Alan Garman's been working on a project to try to figure out if there's a way of certain things that we self-insure more and create a reserve, and what the payback period would be, if we went that he's doing research there, because we are very mindful of the increasing costs. And later on this calendar year, we'll have next year's premiums, and it's certainly possible our rates could be even higher.
Okay. The only comment I have from a private standpoint or private sector standpoint is we are we buy a lot of insurance being in the business that we're in, but found a great improvement in pricing when we pit broker against broker instead of the individual broker bringing people to the table. But I'm sure that this is all covered throughout the state and everything. But that worked really well for us. Anyway,
Yes.
but thank you for the explanation and the detail. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Member Powers, one question related to overtime. What is our process for approving overtime in advance of the overtime being taken?
I would have to get back to you. I don't know what, I'm sure it's I don't know if it's company-wide or department by department, but I don't know if Deb would be able to answer that.
Yeah, it is division by division, but generally most. It's particularly because we have so many crews, and so employees, certain employees, certain classifications are eligible for overtime pay, and the balance of our employees receive compensatory time. So this overtime that you're seeing from a dollars perspective, that would be those eligible for overtime. And generally, the need for overtime is initiated by a supervisor, and they'll say that they have the need for overtime, and the division directors or the facility administrators are responsible for ensuring that they stay within their overall budget. So they are authorized to have overtime, as long as they can stay within their overall budget. But it's usually initiated by a supervisor, knowing that there's a need, and then he will have crews that perform the overtime work. The supervisor themselves, generally, they are not overtime eligible. Also, the same thing with police. You can have officers having to go to court. You can have officers needing to cover particular shifts that comes from their commander.
Thank you. And I'm just asking because we had 10% variance to the bad and about $500,000, and just making sure that we keep an eye on that. And I recognize some of that probably has to do with on the vacancy side, where if you don't have the staff, you need the existing people to step up. So I understand that. But as long as we have good controls in place so that it's not, indiscriminately being given to people and they can't self-choose to work overtime, that's a good thing.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Okay. Jeff, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Deb, thank you. And members, very good questions. Very, very good. This is not an approval item. It's just an update. So we will move on to the next agenda item, number 5. Update on the budget comparison, review of actual versus projected fiscal year 2023 capital budget spending. And we have Jennifer here. Hi, Jennifer. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jennifer Stump, the Assistant Capital Program Manager. Today, I'm presenting the fourth quarter review of the fiscal year 2023 capital budget versus actual spending as outlined in the fiscal year 2023 to 2028 draft CTP. This information will also be presented to the full board on September 28th. As of June 30th, 2023, 81.2% of the fiscal year 23 $556 million budget was spent as compared to the targeted spending level of 100%. Actual spending through the fourth quarter was $451.7 million. 11 of the 91 projects budgeted in the fiscal year 23 draft CTP were within acceptable spending limits of 90 to 110%. This is plus or minus 10% of the 100% target. The variation is decreased from the 25% variation reported for the first, second, and third quarters because all allocations, accruals, and fiscal year 2023 invoices have been posted. Attachment A details 10 projects that were budgeted for more than $11 million each in fiscal year 2023. Actual spending through the fourth quarter on these 10 projects was $323.2 million. 4 of those 10 projects are part of the I-95 ETL Northbound Extension group of 26 projects. That concludes this presentation. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Okay. If not, we will thank you very much, Jennifer, for your presentation, and we will move on to item number 6.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quarterly update on traffic and revenue. And Cheryl is here. Good morning, Cheryl.
Morning. I put my glasses on. So, good morning. For the record, my name is Cheryl Lewis-Orr, Director of Revenue, and the purpose of this agenda item is to provide the Finance Committee with a quarterly and year-to-date update on traffic and revenue performance. Some of the key takeaways here are we continue to track very closely to pre-pandemic levels for passenger vehicle traffic. We continue to outperform pre-pandemic levels for commercial vehicle traffic. And for the fiscal year ended 2023, June 30th, 2023, our transactions and revenue exceeded our forecast by 4.2% and 8.5% respectively. All right, if directing your attention to the table on page 2 of the memo, you'll note that on a system-wide basis for the year ended June 30th, 2022, transactions totaled 162.6 million, which was a decrease of 6.7 million or 4% compared to the previous year. And our corresponding collected toll revenue totaled $777.3 million, which was also a decrease of $26.9 million, or 3.3% compared to the last fiscal year. And this variation is mainly due to the transaction backlog that was processed in the fiscal year 2022. Okay. During the fourth quarter, transactions decreased by 2.1 million or 4.9%, and revenue decreased by $8.5 million or 4.2% compared to the same period last year. And as previously mentioned, the variation is mainly due to backlog transactions processed during the fiscal year 2022. Next, our transactions were above forecast by 6.5 million or 4.2%, and our revenues exceeded the forecast by $60.7 million or 8.5%. And that deviation in the actual versus forecasted revenue is due to a combination of factors, including we had transactions processed from FY21 and 22 that weren't included in the forecast. We had higher than forecasted pay-by-plate usage. We had higher than forecasted Easy Pass transactions and administrative toll revenue, and we had lower than forecasted video toll collection rates. Attachment C to this memo outlines the variances in more detail and give dollar amounts. Are there any questions? Okay.
So yeah, actually, Cheryl, I do have a question related to
Okay.
so the toll collection rate. That's a pretty significant variance. Is there
Yeah, it
something we can do about that, or are we working on that?
Well, yes, we are working on tuning in, fine tuning the collection rate, and we're doing lots of analysis to see what we can do to get those toll collection rates up. And Deb might have more to, I see she's jumped in, have more to say about that.
No, Cheryl, I mean, I completely agree with you that, there was, the forecast was a little more aggressive than we were able to, demonstrate. We had the customer assistance plan. We definitely saw slower payments during that time period. We are seeing areas pick up. We've been mailing for flagging. We've been mailing notices. Quite a few people, percentage calling in and making payments, which is, part of the intention. So, at this point, we believe what is occurring is the payment rate has been is slower than normal. Not that we're talking about an increase in like uncollectible. That's, we don't believe that at this point in time. It seems just to be slower payments. But because the forecast is an annual snapshot, that slower payment rate is causing this underperformance in this past fiscal year.
Thank you.
Member Oranger?
Yes, so is that all in-state, or are we also, how does the out-of-state collection factor into this?
That is a combination. That is in-state and out-of-state.
And would you say
combined.
out-of-state more of a problem than the in-state?
I wouldn't say that. I'm sorry. I can look it up for you. But I wouldn't say one's, grossly more of a issue than the other. Generally speaking, individuals that, don't pay something, no one state has a monopoly on that. Once, long term, when you look out multiple years and we're able to use, registration holds and stuff like that. That's where you see Maryland payment rates climbing up, higher than out of state. But at this stage where you're talking about, noticing and citations, you know, it's yeah, individuals that don't pay. It's not unique to a particular state. But the analysis that Cheryl is talking about, we call it our revenue assurance. Like, you know, we're looking at things from a perspective of both revenue that comes in today, making sure we understand what we're doing well, and to be able to continue that so that the revenue is collected. But then also looking at, are there pockets or areas that we can see a concentration of lost payments, and then figure out, you know, why behind that. That's the analysis that Cheryl's referring to, you know, try to understand if there are any particular groups of individuals that have just a higher concentration of a lower payment rate. We have to ask ourselves the question, is there anything we need to do different? Do we need to reach them in a different way? That's the work that Cheryl is talking about that we're doing. We had started the work. We had to slow it down a little bit because we are in a traffic and revenue forecast update. You'll be getting that, you know, very shortly. But now we are wrapping up that, and we'll be, you know, fully engaged in that analysis again.
Thank you.
Deb, I have a question while you're there. Do we have the, I guess, the resources to really put a focus on this to impact that in a bigger way? Or, you know, where it's sort of I'm not saying, it's just
I understand.
a focus on it where we have like because we have a lot of there's many moving parts in this area, and we're touching on a couple, but there's such a bigger picture. But on chasing this, or even establishing something up front that makes it go smoother, and also maybe would eliminate some of this. I'm not trying to get.
I understand. I understand the question. And like a minute ago when we were doing the budget update, you know, we were talking about vacancies being very high, and operations. You know, Heather's area for Easy Pass Ops, finance. You know, there's no one area that's immune to having a you know, substantial number of vacancies, and it does impact performance for what we can do. Finance, specifically the revenue area, their number of authorized positions have been increased, as well as operations. Finance is actively recruiting for those positions. They have just recently filled 2 positions that they have, and they're working on other ones. But the first part, this data analysis piece, how do you approach this and use your resources the best, whether we're talking about contracted resources, which is still our dollars, or our personnel. Our starting point is to let the data drive us where we need to focus. And so this analysis piece, we have worked with CDM Smith, Cheryl, Walt, you know, lots of time with them, devising the analytics that need to be done. But the actual performing of the analytics is being done by CDM Smith, because we recognize that we don't have the time and the resources right now internally to be able to do that. So once we have results, depending on what they tell us, we may or may not have the resources in the area that we need it. But if we determine that we don't have the resources in the area that we need them to help improve metrics, then we'll take the actions to get those. So it really, you know, whether or not we have the resources really depends on where our focus needs to be.
Well, I'm sure it's certainly a priority with this. Certainly for the board, it seems to be.
And Deb, do we know Is this similar to experiences by other toll authorities for their video tolling as well?
Well, our customer assistance plan, that definitely affected us differently than any other tolling agencies. But there is, with AET, there is a slowness to payments that everyone is seeing. That is, I hear that conversation a lot. One of the things that, again, this is Cheryl's area, Cheryl and Walt is working on, and we'll be presenting to you very soon. If we can call it a lot of different things. We can call it a funnel, we can call it a waterfall, but it basically takes all of the transactions in the lane, and we start there and says, this is the raw number of transactions that we have. And then it breaks it all the way down to, this is what's not collectible. So you start off with your total, and these are the transactions we didn't get images for, or these are the DMV lookups that we didn't get any hit. We call them hits, no hits. There's no match to a DMV record. These are the easy pass payments. These are the pay by plate. These are the video payments. And these are dismissals, courtesy dismissals to customers. And it takes it from the very gross at the lane before any adjustments whatsoever and shows the progression all the way down. And so I think when you see that too, we're dealing with very, very large numbers. And when we look at it on a year by year basis as to where are we, I think it puts some of these numbers in perspective as a percentage of our total.
Well
Thank you.
said. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Can we, do you mind, Member Von Paris, if we move back to the second agenda item? In Jeff Davis has the additional information for us for your consideration.
Sure, we'll do that. I just want to thank Cheryl and you, Deb, for your the presentation today, Cheryl, and your comments and help with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move back to the agenda item number 2, contract number MT 00210823, sludge debris removal. And we have, okay, let's see. Okay, Jeffrey, are you there? Okay.
Yes, my camera's on, mic's off. Maybe I'm not popping up into your screen. But I do want to apologize for earlier. I got caught having to take my daughter to school. So I apologize for being caught off guard. All the information, I have it for you now. Member Ardinger, so to answer your question, yes, so when we have them submit bids, we ask for references, and oftentimes we also get a narrative about a company's history. So we found out they hold contracts with VDOT, Virginia Beach, the Baltimore City dump, and PG County. And they have a project for VDOT that requires removing sludge from holding ponds that they maintain. So we were able to determine that they have relevant experience. And then to comment on the price difference, we did not find it to be as extreme because the original fund certification for the whole program was $765,000. So the bottom two bids just seemed to be competitive within the range we were looking with the amount of funds we were looking to spend on this project.
Okay.
Thank you for that additional information.
I apologize for not having it originally, but I'm glad I got to answer your questions. Did you have any additional ones?
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Jeffrey. We appreciate it. And those members, Member Ardinger and others who asked, to get some clarification on this, very, very good questions. And Appreciate that very much. So we will, we can, member Carol, we knew he had to drop off. So, but we have, the three of us, so we have a quorum. So we can, is there a motion to advance this to the full board for consideration?
Member Artinger also move.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, that takes care of the agenda item number 2 and all of the other items on the agenda today. So this brings us, it's time to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much for your time today.